Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have Jennifer Nemeth with us,
Mhm.
and she's going to do a presentation on Heart of the Matter, balancing law and life to prevent lawyers from becoming a victim of the number one killer. Jennifer is going to give us an exciting lecture for lawyers that will focus on unique stressors and lifestyle factors that contribute to cardiovascular risk, emphasizing the importance of managing work-related stress, maintaining a balanced diet, exercising regularly, and monitoring key health indicators like blood pressure and cholesterol. This lecture will provide practical strategies to promote long-term heart health by addressing specific demands of the legal work, such as long hours, sedentary behavior, and high-stakes decision-making. This session will aim to equip lawyers with the knowledge to prioritize their cardiovascular well-being while managing their professional responsibilities. And as they say, take it away, Jennifer.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm really excited to speak with you. So again, my name's Jen. I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a certified health coach, and I'm also a licensed Food for Life instructor through an organization. It's a nonprofit called the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They're out of Washington, D.C., and they are a great group of physicians. Specifically, Dr. Neil Bernard started the organization back in the 1980s. And he works with different doctors, nurses, and dietitians to bring about evidence-based education. And I teach their class curriculum, which is a lot of fun. So we do different topics such as heart health, brain health, cancer prevention, things like that. So it's a lot of fun and very rewarding. Um, I had a turnaround in my 20s. My husband had precursors to colorectal cancer already in his 20s, and that's what really motivated us to look into what we were eating and how that correlates with health, and especially for heart health as well, which I'm going to be talking about today. I'm super passionate about heart health because I worked as a cardiac nurse in the healthcare system for over 15 years and have seen that a lot of it is preventable, which is actually good news, which we'll talk about. We will do Q&A at the very end, so save your questions then, and I'll give some time for Q&A. And then I'm going to give a lecture today, and then I'm also going to show a video, and then we're going to do a little quiz after the video to make sure you're all paying attention there. So the sad reality is almost 1 million Americans die from heart disease every year. It is the number one killer of both men and women in the country. A lot of people think it's more correlated with men, but it equally affects women as well. So that means every 34 seconds that we're sitting here, unfortunately, someone dies of heart disease in our country, which is really, really sad. The cardiovascular drug market was worth over 148 billion and predicted to reach 186 billion by 2032. So the pharmaceutical industry definitely, not saying that all pharmaceutical medications are bad. Sometimes they are needed, but they do profit off Americans quite a bit. There is hope, though. I don't want this to be a depressing lecture. There's hope. A majority of heart disease cases are preventable and even sometimes reversible. So that's good news for us because a lot of times people think, I was dealt a bad hand with my genetics, but that's actually pretty rare. It's usually only about, 5 to 10% of people that can actually claim that. Most of it is lifestyle related, which is actually a good thing because there's something that we can do about it. So the most common heart disease conditions are atherosclerosis, which is kind of a big word, but it basically means that there's a narrowing and hardening of the arteries due to cholesterol buildup. Arrhythmia is anything different than we call it normal sinus rhythm that people get into. And when people have plaque buildup, sometimes it can lead to different arrhythmias where the heart rhythm is just not going in a normal flow. So one of those would be atrial fibrillation. You might have heard of that arrhythmia before. It's very common. Heart attack or myocardial infarction is in the medical terminology for it, or MI you might have heard of. That we'll go more over that in the next slide, but it means that a clot hinders the blood flow. There can also be heart valve problems, which prolapse. So our valves have little leaflets on them, and prolapse is when those leaflets are not functioning properly. And then stenosis means hardening of those valves. They're just not pumping very well. And then heart failure, it's also known as congestive heart failure. That means that the heart is just not pumping effectively anymore. Essentially, if you look at it, our hearts are a pump and they get tired after a while if they're really having to work really hard and they just don't pump as effectively anymore. And people with heart failure often get like fluid buildup in their legs because with gravity, everything goes down to the legs or to the feet, and the heart just is not pumping that fluid around anymore. Or they can get buildup in their lungs when they have a lot of shortness of breath with extra fluid there. So contributors of heart disease are smoking, definitely smoking, and type 2 diabetes lead to accelerated plaque buildup in the vessels. Obesity, of course, is a big contributor of heart disease. And in fact, most Americans are either overweight or obese now. Sedentary lifestyle, doing a lot of sitting. As much as we can, we want to be moving up, get a standing desk, be walking around, doing exercise regularly. Excessive alcohol and illicit drugs, of course, lead to damage to the heart. And then the main one we're talking about today is poor diet, or this standard American diet, or I like to label it as SAD, because unfortunately, as you can see in that picture, a lot of processed food, a lot of animal-based products. So atherosclerosis, or that hardening or plaque buildup, it starts early. So the day you were born, in that upper left corner there, we have nice clean vessels, right? And then as adolescence hits, you can kind of see that little yellow layer building up the plaque. And then adulthood, even more so. And then with advanced disease, you can see that vessel, that blood vessel is really getting more and more narrow. So the blood is having a hard time getting through there. And what happens is that endothelium, that's that really small layer sitting on top of that yellow plaque. Unfortunately, what happens with like high blood pressure and just accumulated damage, it really weakens that area. And what happens is that actually breaks open, almost like a pimple popping, and the body freaks out and says, "Oh, I got to send a blood clot in there. I got to stop that." Well, unfortunately, when that blood clot happens in your heart, you need that blood flow. And that's when a heart attack happens, or a myocardial infarction, or MI. So, what are the optimal levels of LDL cholesterol? So, your doctor might have drawn an LDL level before. LDL stands for low density lipoprotein. I like to try to think of they're lousy, think L lousy. You want that number to be low. And when we're babies, our LDL level is actually only 30 to 70. We're actually the only um, uh, mammals that have an LDL over 80, besides domesticated animals, because unfortunately, like our dogs and stuff, they're eating a lot of like kind of, processed dog foods and things like that nowadays. But really, our LDL levels should be around the 40 to 80 level. And a lot of Americans are much, much higher than that. So, what are dietary factors that go into this for high blood cholesterol? So, dietary cholesterol, an easier way to remember that is cholesterol is only produced by animals. So, eating animal products is the only way you're going to get dietary cholesterol. So, that comes through meat, cheese, dairy products, and egg yolks. Saturated fats also raise cholesterol levels. So you do have to be careful with that. Meat and dairy definitely have a lot of saturated fat. especially cheese. Cheese is the number one source of saturated fat in Americans' diets. And you can easily see that if you go out, right? If you get a cheese pizza at Domino's or something like that, it's loaded with cheese. There are some plant-based sources of saturated fats, which include coconut oil and palm oil. So if you want to lower your cholesterol, you got to be careful with coconut oil and palm oil as well. And then trans fats come from hydrogenated oils, and it's a process they do where they make a liquid fat into a solid fat. And that comes a lot in your processed food. So like snack things like cookies and things like that are trans fats. And then meat and dairy naturally has some trans fats in it as well. So you have to be careful for those things if you're trying to lower your cholesterol. So this is a nice chart. It just shows it's giving you 100-gram measurements. So to give you perspective, 100 grams is about a half a cup of butter or sugar, or about a cup of oats, or a half of a small chicken breast. So that kind of gives you like the size. So as you can see, egg yolks have a lot of cholesterol in them. So you got to be careful there too. And animal-based products, where our plant-based products aren't going to have any cholesterol, right? Because they didn't come from an animal origin. So that's kind of an easy way to remember it. Saturated fats, like I said, you have to be careful for also because saturated fats raise our cholesterol level. So again, you can see with animal-based products, they're going to be higher in your saturated fats, but you do have to be careful in that lower right-hand corner, like coconut and palm oil are very high in saturated fats. But then our broccoli and things like that are very, very low. Like a banana has 0.1. It actually has a little bit of saturated fat, but it's so small in comparison with all those other things that you see on the list there. Should we eat any cholesterol? Well, the USDA dietary guidelines and the Institute of Medicine say that we should eat as little dietary cholesterol as possible when consuming a healthy diet pattern. Again, cholesterol only comes through animal products. I got this slide from a cardiologist. So these are some good numbers to look at when you compare your labs that your doctor orders. So they used to say, cholesterol should be 200 or above. Really, a desirable level is 150 or below. So, excuse me. LDL cholesterol, again, think lousy. We want that number to be low. Ideally, typically a doctor will say keep it under 100. If you can keep it below 70, that's even better. Now, HDL, I like to think of happy. You want to keep that number high. HDL cholesterol, it carries cholesterol out of the body. So you do want a good HDL number. But as the science is coming along, they're realizing it's better to focus on keeping your LDL low than obsessing about keeping your HDL high. And one thing that I've noticed personally, me being a plant-based eater, I eat a vegan plant-based diet. My HDL numbers have actually gone down a little bit over the years. I don't know if this theory is correct, but I'm not eating any animal-based cholesterol, so those little lipoproteins don't need to do anything for me because they don't have any cholesterol to carry out of the body. So my HDL has actually gone down a little bit over the years. But my LDL significantly has dropped over the years being on a plant-based diet, which is great. And then your normal fasting triglycerides, you want to keep those below 150. And triglycerides are fats in the blood. So typically at the doctor's office, if you have some heart disease or any kind of heart problems, typically their first line of treatment is they're going to put you on some kind of medications. Sometimes medications are needed, but the good news is a lot of them can be eliminated with a physician's help when we change our diet and our lifestyle around, which is good because medications can be certainly very expensive as well. And then if that doesn't work, a lot of times a doctor, if a person has a lot of plaque buildup, a lot of heart disease, they'll recommend a stent, which is on the very right-hand side there of your screen. So it's a little stent that goes in the vessel and it opens up the blood flow. Unfortunately, though, that's not a cure-all. People can still build up plaque within that with that stent being there. And then the other picture in the middle is bypass, where they actually take a vessel from like the arm or the leg, and they kind of do a route around the blockage in the heart. The thing is, that can also be, if people don't eat well after that surgery, they can develop blockages again, even though they got those new routes through their heart there. So I just wanted to show this screen. So it's not without risk as well, right? Bypass surgery and stents. So about 1.2 million Americans a year have a stent place, and it's only about a 1% mortality risk. But if you do the numbers, that's still 12,000 people that die during a coronary stent procedure. Sometimes those are needed. If someone is actively having a heart attack and they need to have a stent, they can be life-saving. But a lot of times a doctor will do an elective stent, and a lot of with lifestyle changes, people can sometimes avoid having stents, which is great. And then coronary bypass surgery, that's not without risk as well. There's about 500,000 people a year that get that surgery. And there's a 3% mortality, which equals about 15,000 deaths. So again, though, there is good news. Like we'll talk more about it. Lifestyle medicine, there's really not any negative things that come up with it. It's all positive stuff, which is great. So how is the US doing? Unfortunately, per capita, we're spending about twice as much as other developed countries on our healthcare. And then if you look at life expectancy, by 2030, we're not doing so great compared to some other countries here. I don't know, in South Korea, the women, they're living a long time. I mean, that's the average age. They're living over 90 years old there, which is great. Whereas in the US, if you compare that, we're only living till men are only living till about, 70, 77, 78, women like mid 80s or so. So we definitely have some work to do there. So now we're going to go ahead and watch a video. It's about a little over 10 minutes here. I think it's 11 minutes long, by Dr. Neil Bernard. He is the physician that I was talking about that started the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. PCRM.org is their website. I'm going to play just a short video from him. It's really powerful about heart health here. And then we're going to do a little quiz afterwards, all right? And we'll go over that together. So let's do a little quiz together here. Let's see what you learned. So Dr. Ornish, his program to reverse moderate to severe heart disease considered of which of the following lifestyle modifications? So we have follow portion sizes, avoid tobacco, reduce stress, half an hour run each day. B is reduce calories, avoid tobacco, eliminate stress, and 1 hour run each day. C is vegetarian diet, avoid tobacco, reduce stress, a half an hour walk every day. Or D, track calories, avoid tobacco, eliminate stress, and 1 hour walk each day. So, the correct answer here is C. He did a vegetarian diet, avoiding tobacco, reducing stress, and half an hour walk each day. I actually helped run their program in the past, and I really saw it was amazing with those 4 different things, interventions that they did. It was amazing to see people's lab results just become normal. And it was really invigorating to see people get their lives back and get their energy back again. It was a really great program. So next question, artery blockages can break open and trigger clots. Clots can occur in the following areas, in the coronary arteries, potentially causing a heart attack, carotid artery, potentially causing a stroke, arteries to a man's genitals, potentially causing erectile dysfunction, or all the above. So the correct answer to that one is all the above. All right, next one. In addition to minimizing animal fat and cholesterol to protect the arteries, the following also can be minimized. Exercise, all oils, oats, barley, and soy products, or vegetables. I'll give you a second to think about that one. So the answer there is B, all oils. They can, especially again, your palm oil or coconut oil can be very inflammatory and can damage the arteries as well. So we have to be careful for those oils. Blood pressure can be reduced by increasing salt consumption, emphasizing veggies, fruits, beans, and whole grains in the diet, eating animal fats to make the blood more viscous or thick, or gaining weight. And the answer to that one is B. And then type 2 diabetes threatens the heart and is a condition where one consumes too much sugar, the body does not produce insulin, there's too much fat accumulating in the cells that interferes with insulin's ability to get sugar into the cell, or diet is unable to help. So that one's a little tricky. So you have to make sure type 1 diabetes, that type of diabetes typically is genetic, or it is genetic. And that one, the body does not produce insulin. So some people think it's B, but with type 2 diabetes, the correct answer is actually C. So there's actually too much fat that gets in the cells, and that interferes with the insulin's ability to work and get sugar into the cell. So the answer is C here. All right. So there definitely needs to be a paradigm shift. I don't know if you've noticed that in doctors' office visits, they just don't have a lot of time for their patients. Usually the visits are really book to book, like back to back with patients. They're shorter visits. They're paid for productivity. It would be so great. And we're trying to move the system more towards longer appointments, more of an integrative approach, and then paid for prevention, where lifestyle medicine is the main focus. So we talked a little bit about this with the video. Dr. Ornish was the one that did that landmark study. It's amazing what results he had when the patients followed, the vegetarian diet, did stress management, exercise, and group support. The social aspect is also huge. Within weeks, they had 90% of their chest pain diminished. About a month later, their blood flow to their heart improved, which I'll show imaging of that. And then after a year, they even saw that severely blocked arteries were reopened, which is the good news, right? We can actually reverse this. We can actually see heart disease reverse, which is really, really exciting. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, also at the Cleveland Clinic, he also published similar results with his patients and doing the same kind of lifestyle modifications as well. And that's where that picture comes from here, is from Dr. Esselstyn. That picture on the left is called a PET scan. And if you can see in the upper left there, where the arrow is pointed, that's where blood flow was diminished. And then after following 3 weeks of a plant-based diet, you can see in that yellow area on the bottom left with the arrow there, that blood flow comes back again, which is amazing. And then the picture on the right is from an angiogram. And in the A there, you can see that that vessel is really, the blood flow is really diminished. And then the patient, after switching to a plant-based diet, you can see that vessel opens up again, which is amazing. They're getting restored blood flow again. So it is possible, definitely. This comes from the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology. They saw that as people ate more vegetable consumption versus more eggs and dairy and meat based, they had a significant drop in their mortality rate. They saw a 41% reduction there, which is good. I always like to show the science articles as well to back this all up. So definitely when people eat meat and dairy, they can get protein and some nutrients from those things. But I like to highlight what also comes with that protein that you're eating. So on the left there, the animal-based products, they come with some unfortunate side things, such as TMAO, which is a long science word. That's why they abbreviate everything. But PMAO, basically, you need to know it affects cholesterol metabolism and accelerates plaque buildup. And then AGEs, which stands for advanced glycation end products, those form when fat or protein combine with sugar in the bloodstream, and it contributes to inflammation, chronic disease, it increases aging as well. And other things that come with those, like endotoxins, which is like salmonella and whatnot. Um, but then if you go to the right side there, we can get all our nutrients from those plant-based foods, and they have a lot of positive benefits that come with them, such as lycopene. That's an antioxidant that comes that you can get in like tomatoes, especially cooked tomatoes. That helps decrease our LDL or our bad type of cholesterol. You can get flavonoids, which are an antioxidant that reduce inflammation. Lignans are also an antioxidant, and they actually help with hormone balance, heart health, and reduce cancer risk as well. So we get a lot of, we can get our protein from plant-based foods, but they also come with lots of other benefits as well, which is good, and fiber, which we really need more of in our diets. So they briefly talked about the portfolio diet in the video as well. So this is especially when people are having a hard time lowering their cholesterol levels, it's good to focus on these things like plant-based proteins, which is like your soy products, or your legumes, which are beans and lentils. Viscous fiber, that means it dissolves in water and helps clear out the cholesterol. So fiber actually binds with cholesterol in the body, takes it out. So we can get that through things like oatmeal, barley, apples, berries, things like that. Walnuts and nuts and seeds, almonds, peanuts, those are great. And then plant sterols help to eliminate cholesterol from the body as well. And those can be found in nuts and soybeans and peas. So if you're really having a hard time with your cholesterol, look up the portfolio diet, and that can be really, really helpful. And then the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is a great organization, and they have different pillars of medicine. Dr. Ornish's program is pretty similar, but this has a few extra. This one emphasizes nutrition, a plant predominant diet, physical activity, which we'll talk a little bit more about, stress management, which I'll also highlight, avoiding risky substances with alcohol consumption. The importance of restorative sleep can make a really, really big influence as well on health. And then social connection. We're very social beings. We need to be connected to other people. And then this is just saying, so the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics says that a plant-based diet is nutritionally adequate and very good for health in all stages of life. So whether that be for women in pregnancy, lactation, and then for everyone in infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adults, and even for athletes as well. And you might have heard of more athletes are going plant-based because it's so low inflammation. It helps them recover faster after a really hard workout. So they've mentioned or noticed the benefits of eating more plant-based as well. So a word on exercise. So We definitely want to get daily exercise most days of the week. So preferably if you're not doing any exercise, start small and just gradually add more minutes every week. So start off with like 20 to 30 minutes and then preferably work your way up to 35 to 60 minutes, 6 to 7 days a week. The goal is like 150 to 300 minutes of exercise per week. Obviously, you can split that up between the days. You wouldn't want to do that all in one day. And do something you love, right? We want it to be sustainable. Do something you love, whether that be, it's different for everyone. So maybe for some people, it's just walking, being out in nature, maybe hiking, running, cycling, swimming, pickleball, golfing, whatever it is, you want to do something that's going to keep your heart rate up and sustained. On the left side, it's kind of a busy slide, but it's just showing the many, many benefits of getting exercise as well. It's really important to be active and not sedentary. So a big factor too, I know with lawyers, you guys have, God bless you, very stressful jobs often. You want to take care of your heart because stress really affects the heart greatly. So when we're very stressed out, it increases our blood pressure and our heart rate because it releases all those hormones such as cortisol, which leads to increased fat buildup, and adrenaline. And think of your heart, it's a pump. And if it's always the heart rate is really high a lot, it just wears the heart down. It's a lot of pressure on the heart. It also stress leads to chronic inflammation. It can damage those arteries and link to higher heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. So some tools to counteract stress, quality sleep is so important. If you can set up a good sleep routine, it's so, so important. Make sure you try to shut off the devices, an hour or two before bed. Try not, I know it's hard, but maybe set a goal of like, I'm not going to check my work email after, 5 o'clock at night. I'm not going to do that until the next day. Trying to help our brain relax at night, getting that quality sleep is so important. Having some kind of bedtime routine is really important for us as well. Exercise, like we hit on, antioxidant rich diet, right? Because stress leads to inflammation. So we want to counteract that with the antioxidant rich diet, lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts and seeds, social connections again, and then mindfulness and meditation. There's so many different platforms out there that you can utilize. I really like Calm, the app Calm. They have a great one. There's other ones called like Headspace. There's a lot of great ones out there. Even if you just start with like 5 minutes a day of meditation, it can really be helpful for you. So here are some tips I want to leave with you for cleaner arteries. So we definitely want to decrease our saturated fat and cholesterol, like we talked about before. Um, the science definitely shows there's a correlation between cholesterol consumption, again, which comes from animal products, and saturated fat and increased cholesterol levels. We want to increase that dietary fiber. So on a plant-based diet, you can get plenty of protein. A lot of people are worried about protein, and almost all Americans get enough protein. It's not something we have to worry about. And if you're eating a wide variety of plant-based foods, you're going to get enough protein. Even like broccoli has protein in it. But the thing that's lacking in Americans' diets is the fiber. We are really lacking in fiber. So we want to aim for about 40 grams, 30 to 40 grams a day. Most Americans are getting about 15 to 20 grams a day. And fiber does so much for us. It helps keeps our gut bacteria really happy. It, cleanses us out. It removes extra hormones, extra cholesterol from the body that is not needed. So you want to try to increase fiber. And a great way to do that is eating more plant-based foods again. So I always say our beans are our super champion for fiber. If you're trying to, you want to take a screenshot of this and try to look in your day if you're getting at least 40 grams of fiber. And this gives you kind of the point system that goes along with the grams. So every half cup of beans gives you 7 grams of fiber for the day, which is great. And then as you can see, as you go along, you get other points for other things there. I'll give you a second if you wanted to take a screenshot of that and try to make that a goal this week and see if you can get up to 40 grams or 40 points in one day. Include soybeans. So soy, there's a lot of misconception about soy there, specifically with cancer. A lot of people think that increased soy consumption leads to more cancer, especially breast cancer, but it's actually been shown to be the opposite through many, many studies. Women that consume more soy have less chance of breast cancer. And even if they've had breast cancer, and they consume soy, it helps it helps prevent it from coming back again. So soy comes in many forms. It can be a miso, I'm sure you've heard of miso soup. Tempeh, which is a fermented soy product. Edamame is soy, and then tofu as well. A lot of people are afraid of tofu. Tofu really just soaks up any flavors. You don't want to eat tofu, just a block of tofu plain. You want to marinate it in some flavors and get the super firm tofu is great, and put that like in a stir fry or something like that. Soy has been shown to reduce that bad LDL cholesterol and has antioxidants in it. And then, interestingly enough, this was a small study, but it's worth noting. Brazil nuts have helped keep blood cholesterol levels low. And Dr. Michael Greger of nutritionfacts.org, which is a great website. Please write that down if you're taking note. Nutritionfacts.org. He has a great website. And he looks at all the evidence-based literature out there. And he saw that there was a study, and just eating one Brazil nut per week can help cholesterol levels drop. Now, you got to be careful with this. Brazil nuts are great and it's easy to eat a lot of them, but they're high in something called selenium, which can be toxic to the thyroid if you consume too much. So only one a week is all that it takes for that. Increasing the amount of antioxidants, which we talked about. So those are those brightly colored fruits and veggies. Increasing carotenoids. Carotenoids, we find those in richly colored red, yellow, orange, and dark leafy greens. And then whole grains. Carbohydrates are great for us. It's about getting whole, complex carbohydrates. So those are like your oats, your brown rice, barley, quinoa. Those are great for reducing risk of heart disease, and they have a lot of fiber, which helps reduce cholesterol as well. This is kind of a busy slide. I'll go through it quickly here, but when we decrease our inflammation, ways to do that is weight loss, adding more of those veggies, spicing it up. So spices and herbs are great. Turmeric specifically helps reduce inflammation in the body. Make sure you always pair turmeric with black pepper, because black pepper helps your absorption of turmeric. Ginger, garlic, cayenne, all those are great anti-inflammatories. Reduce or eliminated intakes of those saturated fats. And then increasing omega-3 fats from healthy plant-based sources. So that would be like your walnuts, ground flax seeds. You want to make sure they're ground, otherwise you don't absorb the omega-3s. Chia seeds or hemp seeds are all great sources of those omega-3 fats. He talked about it briefly in the video, but unfortunately, omega-3 supplements or fish oil supplements have actually, as years have gone along, they've noticed that they actually increase cardiac death. So avoid those. Thankfully, doctors nowadays, they used to prescribe them all the time, but doctors are shying away with that because the research has shown that it's actually not beneficial. And like Dr. Bernard mentioned in the video, yes, you can get omega-3s through fish, but most of that omega-3 fat, it's not very large in the fish. Most of that fat that the person is getting when they eat fish is saturated fats. So real quick too, I'm going to wrap up here. The hour has gone really fast. Some heart health superstars. Again, adding berries are great to your diet. So any of those, so your raspberries, blackberries, strawberries have helped with lowering cholesterol levels. They're also really good for your brain. Apples, there is some truth about an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So pectin, which is a soluble fiber, helps block cholesterol absorption. So get your apple in every day if you can. Tomatoes have that powerful antioxidant called lycopene, which helps reduce inflammation, specifically even more so in cooked tomatoes. So if you make a stew or a chili or a marinara sauce that's cooked, you're actually going to get even more of that lycopene. Nuts can help as well, especially your walnuts are high in those omega-3 fatty acids, and ground flax seeds and chia seeds. Aim for about an ounce or two a day, or about the size of like the palm of your hand is a good way to remember that. And then beans, I talked about beans and how they're our fiber superstar, especially the darker beans have even more antioxidants. So you probably, all of you, I'm sure, have heard of black beans, but try to find out like adzuki beans are also, that's that picture there. They're even higher in antioxidants as well. And then one of my favorites for last here is cacao powder or dark chocolate. You want to aim for like 70% or above when you get your dark chocolate, because that's going to have more of those beneficial properties in it as well. I'm always excited to see about chocolate because I'm definitely a chocolate lover there. And if you want to do a quick screenshot of this too, I want to leave you with some healthy meal ideas, because if you're like, oh, I'm interested, in eating more plant-based, where do I even start? So this gives you some great places to start, some easy snacks. Oh, looks like there's typo. It says it's just an easy snack ideas there. But this is a great one to give you ideas. I also highly recommend if you Google PCRM 21-day kickstart, it will give you free 21-day kickstart ideas to start a plant-based diet. It's a free resource. They give you videos, they give you recipes. That's a great resource for you. If you're like, I don't want to cook, I want some kind of meal delivery service, I would suggest there's one called Thistle. All their meals by nature are plant-based, and I've gotten them before and they're really good as well. If you're like, I don't know where to start, I want to just get meals delivered to my house, Thistle is a good idea for that. All right, I wanted to promote. So I do health coaching, one-on-one health coaching, if that's something you're interested. If it can be all different things. If you want to improve your heart health, I'm working with clients right now that are trying to lose weight, and we can make that work on a schedule that works for you. And then I also teach a class series. So the next one that's coming up is a hormone health class series that starts next week, a week from today. It's from 10 to about 11:30 or noon. And it's an awesome, awesome series. We talk about all different like hormone related cancers, a healthy thyroid, food and mood, avoiding environmental chemicals and things like that. And I offer that. I'm in San Diego. So if any of you are in San Diego, you can come in person. Otherwise, I offer it online as well. So you can tune in online if you don't live in the San Diego area also. And there's my website, healthcoachjen.com. If you want to check out my resources there and the classes coming up, I'm going to be adding some more classes here pretty soon. And then my website or my email address is on there too. If you think of any questions afterward or need any kind of support, just go to my website there, healthcoachjen.com. All right. Well, thank you all. I think we can give some time for questions. If anyone wants to put anything in the chat, or if you want to, if you're able to unmute yourself, I have a few minutes for questions I can take.
So there was one question in the chat, Jen. It said, I'm a
Okay.
lifelong vegetarian pescatarian with excellent blood test results, healthy and active. What additional steps are recommended to maintain healthy as I age?
Okay, great. Well, good to hear that. So yeah, going definitely more in the plant-based direction is beneficial. Um, Probably just looking at all those different pillars that I talked about. So maybe look at, stress management. Is that something that you could add to your life and trying to minimize stress in your life? Maybe it's social connections. Maybe it's putting yourself out there more and doing something that you're passionate about that you haven't done for a long time. Maybe it's like going to a pottery class or going to a paint night or something like that. Getting out there, the social connection is really, really important. We lost a lot over COVID. That was really challenging. Depression rates went way up, as you may have heard, just because we lost a lot of those social connections. So trying to look at all those lifestyle factors, they're all important. Plant-based diet, exercise, stress management, avoiding those risky substances. So just looking at all those pillars to see maybe if there's some improvements that can be made in those other areas.
Great, thank you. There's another quick question about what are your recommendations for eating out when you can't control what's in your food?
Good question. Yeah. So a lot of restaurants, their goal is to try to make the food addictive, right? They want people to come back and eat their food. So it's going to be high in three things. It's going to be high probably in sugar, salt, and fat. So you've got to be careful of that, but you can look at the menu. Sometimes I'll do that. If there isn't anything that's obvious, I kind of look at the menu and see what all different ingredients that that they have at the restaurant. And I either talk to the waiter or waitress or the chef and say like, hey, can you make a bowl with these ingredients? Some other tips too, when you're eating out, try to choose the restaurant if you can, if your friends or family allow you to choose the restaurant so you know ahead of time that there's healthy options. That's always a good thing. Try to look at the menu ahead of time so you can kind of plan out what you want to get. Try to eat beforehand. If there's really no healthy choices, try to eat ahead of time, and maybe just get something small at the restaurant and just focus on that social connection rather than the food. And then like if you're going to a social gathering, try to bring something that you enjoy, that's healthy, that's delicious, that you can share, and then you'll have that option if you're going to like a potluck or something like that.
Great, and we have like a minute left, and there's one last
Okay.
question
Okay.
about supplements for thyroid support. Do you recommend anything?
Not specifically. No. Yeah, I mean, I dive more into that in my class. Some people are hypothyroid, some are hyperthyroid. So you'd have to work with your doctor as far as if there's any kind of medication supplement that's needed. Um, but no supplements.
Great. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Paul Cambio. I'm co-chair of the CLA Health and Wellness Committee. We put on programs like this to promote health and wellness for attorney members. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on LinkedIn, and we have a webpage. And we want to thank Jen Nemeth for
Mhm.
presenting for us today and all the practical advice she gave us on actually implementing these ideas of health and wellness. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. Hope you all have a good day. And please just reach out if you have any other questions or interested in coaching or the classes. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for all the hard work you do.